So the general theory behind this video is that your body knows how to attract. It knows how to attract, but you keep getting in the way. And if you get out of the way, then your body will attract women at the level that nature intended you. So first and foremost, we need to delineate the two different types of attraction. And the problem is most men operate in this layer right here. So this is what you call conscious attraction. And what I mean by conscious is that you're using your cognitive powers, you're using the time that you are most aware and alert. You can call this beta wave frequency, by the way. And that's not a pejorative. It's actually a beta wave frequency, which is a very high wave frequency, on the level of trying to attract the women that you want. And this is typically through characteristics that one can observe through the visual senses. Okay, typical ones. We have the laundry list, don't we? You know what I despise more than any other thing is the lack of creativity, the lack of wit in being an interviewer and standing outside these nightclubs at 2 a.m. and asking women these very creative and trite and not cliche questions around sexual dynamics. And what is your type? Am I your type? And that usually is the precursor to get them to say, I think you're my type. Please validate me. I'm going off on a tangent here, but the point I'm trying to make around that particular example is that if you ask a woman on the level of conscious attraction, she is going to spout off every other socially acceptable idea of what is her laundry list, what is her criteria of being attractive. Are you so surprised that she says she wants a man that is over 6 foot? Are you surprised? Are you surprised when she describes masculine facial features, perhaps squared, chiseled jaw, hollow cheekbones, things like that? Are you really surprised when she says she would like a man to earn more than 6 figures? Of course we're not surprised. That is what you've been socially conditioned to say. And we do not think about the other parameters in which she has no control over. Listen to this next point that I say. Attraction is not a rationalization. It is a feeling. You do not choose to be attracted to somebody. Your body creates and evokes a feeling in you. And men, I know you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure there have been many occasions when you have interacted with a woman who isn't conventionally attractive. Yeah. Maybe you have a type. Maybe your type is blonde women. Maybe that's your type. Yeah. But for some reason, you are getting a feeling. You are getting a sensation in your body. Your eyes are dilating. Maybe a little blood is rushing to your member. But the woman that you're in the environment with is not blonde. She is, in fact, brunette. Oh, interesting. I rationalized being attracted to blonde women, but I'm feeling attracted to brunette women. How curious. Attraction is not something you rationalize. But if you try to attempt to get that information, get that validation on the level of your conscious mind, yeah, you'll get the answers. You get the socially acceptable answers. We are going to explore the areas that aren't at the surface of your consciousness, but in fact sit deep below those areas of consciousness. Okay? Now, just to kind of tie a nice little neat bow on this, most men operate here. They see these videos that I've described to you, right? The guys outside the club with a microphone going, and they hear these things and they go, I'm not 6 foot. I don't have a square chiseled jaw. I'm not very wealthy. And therefore, I will never be able to attract a woman. There is a difference between what she says and what she feels. Big difference. Big difference. Okay? And we are looking to take advantage of the areas in which we can operate in this regard. So fret not, my friend. Fret not. And these are areas that you can have jurisdiction, agency, and fundamentally control over. So Okay, so most men operate here. We understand that. And this is a financial trap, by the way. I've seen men pour their whole lives out trying to... You heard the trend now about men breaking their own legs to extend their femurs to meet that criteria, and they have crippled themselves for life. I mean, that's I don't know if it's in Europe. I have no idea. But I imagine it isn't cheap to break your femurs. Yeah, anyway. Now, so the second area that we want to concern ourselves, and the far more interesting area, in my personal opinion, is these subconscious realms of attraction which sit below the conscious mind. Okay. Now, we know that fertility has an influence on this. For example, when women are ovulating, it is scientifically, empirically understood that they are more attracted to men that are of a higher testosterone disposition, meaning more masculine facial features. I believe the study was done on the correlation between the width of the jawbone comparatively to how attractive the woman perceived this individual when they were and were not on cycle, ovulating. Cycle sounds like they're doing tren. It might be. Anyway, so we know fundamentally that this is a real phenomenon, okay? Now, this sits below what one would indicate of conscious perception, right? It's a feeling that sits below the conscious mind. So we know there's influence there. You know, I'm firmly of the opinion that this works in the same ways with men as well. This is part of my theory, and in many ways, you guys are part of the process of me accumulating the information, be it anecdotal, be it scientific, to bring more reasoning to this theory. But I believe I have strong and sound reasoning at this present moment. So the next one is olfactory senses, which is the senses in your nose, okay? Now, the studies that I've done in this particular area, or I've interpreted in this particular area, reference men who are exercising and women who are smelling a pheromone that is secreted during that activity. And I believe that pheromone is called androstenedione. Androstenedione. Now, the parameters of this test were androstenedione versus water and versus clove oil. And there was a positive p-value, which essentially means that there was a positive correlation between women who are smelling androstenedione and their levels of perceived attraction in that case, comparatively to water and clove oil. However, this was a lab synthesized androstenedione, which is important for later on, because not many men are actually producing this particular androgen in their sweat, in their blood, in their saliva, in their urine, and fundamentally where they're made, in their semen and in their testicles, which is where most androgens, such as testosterone, are synthesized. Perhaps you can see where this is going. Okay, so we have information here. We have evidence here that pertains to the reality that there are subconscious factors that influence attraction. And you could even say things like, I didn't want to say energy, but charisma, right? Charisma isn't something that you can necessarily measure, isn't necessarily something that is conscious in that way. I'm sure you've heard things along the lines of PUA artist reference. It is not about the line that you are saying, but rather how you're delivering and what your body looks like as you're delivering the line. In that way, you understand that communication is not words, it is tonality, intonation of your voice, how you are pitching that particular phrase, word, sentence, and what your body looks like as you're saying those things. It actually comprises around 93% of communication is intonation and body language. Only 7% words. So what you say actually doesn't matter. More how it is wrapped and how it is delivered. And that is predicated on the other sensations, such as your solar plexus, which has a bundle of nerves that extend beyond your physical body, that interpret things that may in esoteric circles be characterized as energy, or more Western circles characterized as charisma. You understand, okay? Now, evidence of attraction to male pheromones, but pharmacological, like I say, it was synthesized in a lab, just so we're all following, I'm following the androstenedione line here, okay? And this was about 10 to 3 mol. So the next question logically becomes, if we can take that test, and I know this is one test in many different ones, and there's only been one, but I don't think the reasoning is too far to, outside the remit of what would you say possibility to think that, hey, maybe women are attracted to pheromones, maybe women are attracted to male scent. I don't think that's a stretch of the imagination to posit. Then the next logical question becomes, how do we increase these pheromones, these androgens in the body? Okay. Now, the first one we can't control is genetics. The ones in orange we can control. So diet, one thing, of course, can influence smell. It's been, the next parts I'm going to say here are perhaps a little bit more anecdotal, but I am very sensitive towards other people's natural odors, let's say. And I can tell if somebody's eaten fast food, for example, the day before, because it's coming out of the pores, it's coming out in the sweat. Okay. Equally, I'm sure you've been around individuals who have, you've witnessed eating poorly, and similarly that negative cycle doesn't end after they've eaten their food, and perhaps they smell, and perhaps they hold themselves and their demeanor in general. Okay, so that's just one thing that we know influences. Maybe more specifically, because I want to give some practical elements here, is we know that fat and cholesterol levels have a positive correlation in the amount of testosterone an individual can synthesize. So maximizing natural levels of, or what would you say, improved or optimal levels of saturated fat in the diet is certainly something to explore. I'm very much of the opinion that most people aren't getting enough fat in their diet, and that could be through fatty animal cuts, especially red meat, but also, if you want to start slowly, perhaps something like avocados as well, and certainly using that as a what would you say, a oil or general cooking sauce. You're not using seed oils because they have inflammatory markers, and they also impact the androgen receptors, which allows for the expression of testosterone. So diet. I am writing a book at the moment that's got comprehensive practical application on some of the points that I am making at the moment, gentlemen. Physical activity, of course, is going to influence the ability to have more receptivity in the androgen receptors, especially the muscles you work in relation to the physical activity. So, for example, chest, shoulders, and trap muscles hold a large amount of androgen receptors, which is why whenever somebody does anabolic steroids, they grow the quickest, because there's more of them that express natural levels of testosterone, and also general hygiene habits equally are going to have an impact on how an individual is smelling. But the most interesting one, in my personal opinion, which I've yet to put on here, is this idea that sexual fatigue or sexual exhaustion actually impairs androgen sensitivity, and therefore the expression of testosterone, meaning secretions of things like androstenedione, androsterol, and other androgens. And I don't think that this is such a wild theory to comprehend, because we recognize that all androgens are made in the testes, are present in our sexual fluids, and if we're constantly wasting ourselves in that regard, then that's going to have an impact on overall fertility, virility, and the permeations of pheromones that we release into the air as a consequence of being fertile, I guess you could say. But unfortunately, due to sexual licentiousness, we are not even allowing ourselves to get to a process whereby we are experiencing things like spermatogenesis, which only happens at 70 days of continence, meaning your sperm cells don't even reach full maturity until 70 days. That is a scientific fact. So we can draw again this idea that most men are living in a state of adolescence, of the full power and potency of their reproductive maturity. And only until an individual reaches some kind of sexual maturity will his body naturally signal to the environment that he is sexually mature in this respect, and therefore he is going to release androstenedione, androsterol in the sweat, in the urine, in all bodily fluids, in saliva, signaling, hey, guess what? Now I'm ready to mate as a consequence of full maturity in this area. And why men are experiencing anecdotally these uncomprehendable attraction, stories. In a way, you're working with your body as opposed to against it. Now there are, if I was going to overall make this very, very simple, I believe that not just the markers of elevated testosterone, high testosterone, but also the androgen sensitivity is going to signal to the environment heightened masculine characteristics that are indicative of fertility fundamentally, because we've already drawn that line between women who are equally fertile, seeking individuals who are demonstrating essentially high testosterone characteristics. And again, this is something that I'm writing in my book at the moment. We're going to discuss levels on how an individual can actually optimize androgen sensitivity by mitigating things like BPA in his environment, other androgen disruptors, endocrine disruptors, I should say, and other lifestyle factors that are within the remit of fundamentally your control. So if you'd like to hear a little bit more on that and are excited to read the book, which I'm thinking of calling Masculinize, maybe. But, essentially the point is we're optimizing male endocrinology, pheromones, and androgen receptor sensitivity, optimizing testosterone. Some assortment, some amalgamation of those words will be used. So let me know if you'd be interested in reading such a thing. And these aren't theories, these are facts. Speak soon.